What in the hell is President Trump up to? You can see an image here behind me. This is in the Indian Ocean. This is off the coast of Malaysia. And the President of the United States Navy just seized an oil tanker, an Iranian oil tanker. And this happens right when everyone keeps saying a peace deal is close. My question is, what is Trump doing? Because if the talks were really on the edge of a breakthrough, you would expect both sides to start lowering the temperature. But that's not what we're seeing right now. Iran is still making the same major demands. They want U.S. forces pushed away from areas near Iran, sanctions lifted, frozen assets released, reparations paid, and the blockade ended. And at the same time, the United States Navy just seized a ship off the coast of Malaysia. It's in the Strait of Malacca. And I never thought that Operation Epic Fury, Rising Lion, economic/success would take us to Malaysia. I want to show you where Malaysia is, for those of you that don't know, in relation to the Strait of Hormuz. So you see Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, been there, done that. And then we go about, I don't know, let's go 2,700 miles northwest. You go through the Bay of Bengal. You see the aircraft carriers here in the Arabian Sea. And then here is the Strait of Hormuz. This is where all the real action is. The United States is seizing an Iranian-linked oil tanker in the Indian Ocean, not in the Persian Gulf, nowhere near the Strait of Hormuz, the Indian Ocean. This matters because this is not just sanctions on paper anymore. This is maritime pressure. This is economic warfare at sea. And this could be the exact kind of move that either forces Iran to back down or blows up this peace track completely. So I've got 3 reasons today that this tanker seizure could stop any deal with Iran. And we're going to get into that. But I want you to take another look at the distance between the Strait of Hormuz and where this tanker was seized. And this tanker had 1 million barrels of oil on it, sanctioned oil. It was loaded up in the Strait of Hormuz in Karg Island, or at Karg Island, just days ago. And the United States military seized it, 1 million barrels in the Persian Gulf. That's where this oil came from. And this is the ship that it took. And with the president doing this, is he just goading Iran? Is he just poking the lion? The U.S. seized Iran-linked oil tanker in the Indian Ocean. It had 1 million barrels of oil on it. The tanker is known as the Sky Wave. It's not going to be making any waves much longer. And I want to know where this oil is going to go. Who is going to get this? Who's getting this 1 million barrels of oil? So this tells me that this Iran Epic Fury battle is traveling around the world. And I've got a couple of reasons that I believe this is huge right now, and the timing is perfect. Number one, I believe it humiliates Iran. While Iran is still trying to look strong, Iran is not negotiating like a country that thinks it's lost. Publicly, Tehran is still acting like it has leverage. They're demanding sanctions relief, frozen assets, reparations, and U.S. forces backing away from the region. So when the U.S. seizes an Iran-linked tanker, that creates a problem for the regime because someone wrote a check for that 1 million barrels of oil, and I'm assuming Singapore, somewhere in Malaysia, because now Iran has to answer a simple question. Are they negotiating from strength, or are they being squeezed? And that matters inside of Iran. These people pride themselves on all of this honor and all this other stuff. And the regime cannot look like it's being dragged into a deal because America's taking its ships and choking off its revenue. Iran wants to walk into negotiations looking like it has the upper hand. But it's hard to project strength when the United States is taking your oil tankers in the Indian Ocean. And that gives Iranian hardliners a reason to say, do not make a deal now. America is escalating. It also proves the U.S. is not easing pressure. Iran's demands include lifting sanctions and ending the blockade. But a tanker seizure sends the opposite message. This is not de-escalation at this point. This is the U.S. saying we're not just keeping sanctions in place, we're enforcing them physically. That changes the entire tone of diplomacy, because if Iran believes the U.S. is using negotiations as cover while continuing to strangle its network, Tehran may decide that talks are not serious. You cannot tell Iran a deal is close while also taking Iranian oil off the water. And from their perspective, that doesn't look like peace. That looks like pressure. And that's the danger. This whole seizure may be strategically smart. It may be legally justified. It may be exactly how sanctions should be enforced. But diplomatically, it makes a deal harder because it tells Iran you're not getting relief and all of your ships are being hunted. Now, another thing that is happening in Iran right now is they are actively pushing out videos like this from CNN. CNN is basically just carrying water for them, where it's showing women and children on how to assemble, how to use an AK-47. So is this the way Iran responds? Does this give them a reason to retaliate?
They're showing children how to use them as well. It's all part of a sort of state-sponsored call to arms in case.
So does this look like a nation that's about to come to the table with any kind of negotiations, any type of peace deal? They allowed CNN in, so that should tell you something there. America's defense strength depends on secure supply chains, and one critical metal is at the center of that fight: tungsten. Tungsten is used in defense, aerospace, munitions, and advanced manufacturing. But America hasn't commercially mined it in years, leaving a major gap that Washington is now working to close. That's where Vault Strategic Mining comes in, trading under NOx in Canada and KNX FF in the U.S. Vault is focused on revitalizing historic tungsten projects in mining-friendly American states, including a flagship project in Nevada's proven tungsten belt. With critical minerals becoming a national priority and tungsten demand rising, Vault is positioning itself in the middle of America's push for domestic supply. To learn more, check out Vault Strategic Mining's latest presentation at the link in the description. And I want to say thanks to Vault Strategic Mining Corp for sponsoring today's video. This is not financial advice. Investing involves your own risk. Please do your own due diligence and research. Let's get back to the video. But Iran doesn't have to respond directly against the U.S. Navy. They have other levers. They can threaten commercial shipping. They can continue to put out propaganda like this. They can pressure the Strait of Hormuz. They can hit the Gulf energy structure. They can activate proxies. They can stir up trouble around with the Houthis in Yemen. And if any of that happens, the peace track could collapse overnight. I'd like to get your opinion on this. Do you think the president made the right move by taking this Iranian tanker? Is this the way that you bring leverage to that area? It says here Iran sends this revamped peace proposal demanding reparations and no limits on their nuclear capabilities. We know that's going to be off the table. This is probably just another flex by the United States, another flex by the president just to goad them into making a decision. Or it could just be a way of bullying them into a way that they know that they can't get away with anything. Now, we've got more stuff just brewing here at home. The president of the United States has other things that are happening here on the home front. He's got a real battlefield laid out in Kentucky. He's got a battlefield laid out in Texas. Trump came out today and endorsed Ken Paxton. This is a direct veiled shot across the bow against Senator John Thune, the leader of the Senate Majority Leader. He came out and endorsed Ed Gowron in Kentucky. Direct shot across the bow against Thomas Massie. So there's battles waged in the Middle East. We've got a battle in the Indian Ocean, when I didn't have that on my bingo card. We've got a battle in Texas. John Cornyn has never been an advocate for the president. You've got a battle with Thomas Massie. He has been very outwardly spoken against the president, against the current cabinet. This is not something that we can take lightly. With all these things happening, yesterday the president came out and said that the attack was on hold. And There's more information coming out today. Israel and the United States have completed their preparations to resume attacks against Iran. So they're planning for the worst. They're planning for the next level of action to come into effect. We're planning for Iran not to come to the negotiating table. Israel's on the highest alert since the ceasefire started. U.S. and Israel completed preparations to resume the attacks. It almost seems like there's a call for more attacks. It almost seems like the sentiment across the United States is growing for, quote, finish the job, more attacks on Iran. I put a poll on my channel. Right now, there's over 15,000 votes on this. Would you let Iran have a nuclear weapon if you got $2 per gallon gas? The votes got about 15,000 votes. 4% of people says, yes, Iran is safe with nukes. 96% of people are saying, no, Iran can never have a nuke. And some of the comments on this are really telling. It says, an inconvenient as it is, that's a big F no. Iran can never have a nuke. It says they aren't what's keeping the gas prices high. I agree with that. It's these companies here in the United States that are doing a little bit of price gouging. But the poll amazed me. I thought this would be much lower with the Iran safe with nukes. I didn't think 4% of people would believe this. I didn't really believe that many people could justify Iran having a nuclear weapon. There was a real explosive exchange in Congress today. The CENTCOM commander, Admiral Cooper, was questioned, a congressman, Moulton. And I believe he was very insulting, but I think the sentiment here is spreading across the United States, particularly one side of the aisle whenever it comes to what's happening in Iran. I want you to hear this and give me your opinion on this.
The president has called for unconditional surrender. Is that part of the plan? Congressman, we achieved all our military objectives. We're presently in a ceasefire. We're executing a blockade, and we're prepared for a broad range of contingencies. It doesn't seem to be going well, and I would like to know how many more Americans we have to ask to die for this mistake. Do you know? I think it's an entirely inappropriate statement from you, sir.
Do you think that is a disrespectful statement for a congressman, sitting member of Congress, someone that can vote to send people to war, to bring up a question as rude as that? How many more people must die? He's talking about men and women in uniform. This guy should probably have to answer for that. And I think the question is such garbage. I can't believe that someone would say something like this. There is no way that a commander-in-chief, any of these commanders in that region, wake up every morning thinking how many more American troops need to pass away for us to get the message across. That's a slippery slope. And right now, it's odd that someone could ask this in Congress, but nobody talked about Abbey Gate. No one talked about when Iran boarded those ships and kidnapped some American sailors. Nobody's talking about Khobar Towers. Nobody's talking about the coal. And that's what Iran has built a history on. They have built a history on chanting, you know what, to America. They have built a history on funding these proxy groups around the world that hate the United States and that want to end Western civilization. But you've got a member of Congress that's carrying water for them. It's reaching a tipping point where the president is going to have to make a decision. On many occasions, he's come out and made a threat or made a statement on social media, and then he backs it down. And he makes a statement and he backs it down. And I believe now we're down to the point where you either carry through on one of these threats, you're going to lose some real confidence, loss of confidence in the military that's there deployed. I think that's the way it's going to be spun. I think that's the way a lot of these news agencies are going to try to do this, to sow sentiment, to sow some doubt in the United States military. And that's the worst thing that could happen right now. Tehran wants to make a deal. I believe they want to make a deal. I believe the IRGC is not necessarily the same people in Tehran. The IRGC seems to be just this radical, almost guerrilla warfare-like organization that is lashing out. And the president and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, apparently they're meeting this afternoon to discuss what's going forward. We go further into depth on how this pressure campaign is building and what it means for Iran to never have a nuclear weapon because of the danger that they could put on their neighbors.